So my request to you is that the next video is of a small child, making bakri roti. So please observe the way she is doing. Don't spend much time looking at her face and all that, but just observe how she is handling that, how she is making it. So again, please treat it more like a meditative act. Don't think too much about it. It's a beautiful activity. So please look at it more like meditation. So this is a poetry by Rilke. Please, I request you to read it yourself. So let me give you some, my journey into this thing called beauty. So when I joined NID to study, one friend actually showed me some of her exploration that she has done for a logo of some company. So she had about 6 of them, and she told me to select which I like. When I looked at that, I found that I couldn't make out any difference between all the 6. That is when I realized that there is something that I need to develop, that I am really able to distinguish the finer aspects of, the change that of beauty. So this is after my engineering studies. I go to design. That was my first, realization that there is something that I'm not able to see. So I, really felt drawn towards understanding beauty and aesthetics and all that. And within 6 months of staying at NID, National Institute of Design, I realized that we are being recolonized very, very badly by the whole educational paradigm. And, the colonization of our aesthetic sense is far more deeper than colonizing the knowledge. Because once your aesthetic sense is colonized, then there is nothing that you can call yours, because aesthetic sense is your body, it's you, that has been, if that is also colonized. So then that made me more deeper interest in understanding what is culture, because culture is one of the aspects of culture is that it has a distinct sense of beauty. That is one distinguishing factor of culture. But all over India, if the same European aesthetic sense is then being taught, then how do we then think of creating culture? So this was the thing that I really I started exploring that. And so initially my whole journey was to understand what is beauty and how do I decolonize myself in that process, So when I began to work with traditional rural artisans, and of course, my method of working with traditional artisans I call it do nothing method. There was no teaching at all, no training at all, because I knew that they are they are more culturally rich than someone like me who have been educated out of my culture, out of my roots. So naturally, I did not do any teaching there. Instead, I created an environment for the people to create, and the result was absolutely mind-blowing, So the kind of products that I'll just share with you, few things that they have done. Now, this particular work I'm showing you, 5, 6 of them, is done by a woman who had never been to school. And in fact, that village, the potters community, had stopped pottery for almost 30 years. When I went there, they had almost given up the whole pottery. So many of these people didn't have any connection with pottery. She was probably around 18, 19 at that time when I started this work. She had never seen a book on art. I don't think she even heard these terms like art, sculpture, and things like that. But she just started spontaneously doing this. I was not giving them any tools, or nothing was actually provided except my respect to them and my that environment of total freedom. And you could look at the kind of treatment that she has done on this work. Absolutely what you call as modern. The kind of elongation that she has done to the body and things like that. And this is done by other group of women. She was also around 18, 19, 20, around that time. Now this is done by much younger girls. I think they were 13, 14, 15. That was the age group that started working with me to make these handmade tiles. These are not molds. These are all done by hand, except the border. The frame I had provided, but the inside work is theirs. So absolutely original and very, very modern in that taste. You can see other work. This is another place where, again, there was no teaching. I invited them to look around in nature. That was the only step that I did. So all this was actually pointing to the fact that if you are very sensitive about the way we engage with people, we can actually tap their originality, which is something that we lack because our whole education is to take this original, what is what is given to us by birth. That is what has happened. So then, uh, while I was doing this, I also started working with children during the 2 months holidays, April, May holidays. And this was again in around 2003, 2000, around that time. And again, I found absolutely beautiful work, effortlessly creating beauty. So I'm not going to share with you many things, just a few things that I will show you. And again, the age group was around 8, 9, 10 to almost 13, 14. That was the age group. And they were just using dry leaves from surroundings and making these things. These are just dry leaves from surroundings. Then from old magazines, I gave them. Such beautiful imagination. And this was later. But everywhere one could see that they were creating these things with hardly putting any effort. It was as if that is what they are meant to do. This is what was fascinating for me, that how children untouched by education, untouched by experts, how are they able to create absolutely beautiful, and yet they are very innocent about it. They're not going and showing around as if they have done something great. Absolutely nothing like that. This is again created from the stones and the dust that they had made from laterite stones. So this was one part of the journey, and then I've been always looking at more deeply into what people have been doing, and then I came across some very interesting things. Like this was done by a girl with no measurement. She was just doing this, and it was turning out to be circle. And I had been watching this thing happening many times when I see a potter woman had, from a slab of clay, she took the knife and just started cutting circular, uh, you know, slabs. And I was wondering that how are they able to do it so accurately? Because at NID, when I was there, in that first 1 year, uh, 1 hour every day, what we were doing was drawing freehand lines and circles. It was like a training to do perfect circles. And then I watched these people doing these things absolutely with no effort. That is when I began to get a hint that there is something far more deeper than that, that we modern people have been made to understand, that it is probably part of our biological system itself, like the way we feel hunger, which is what produces food. There is something that is far deeper within us that makes us do things beautifully without even wanting it. Please understand that. So this was I was constantly watching this, because I have been spending most of the time in living with rural tribal people, looking at the kind of houses they make. Almost in every activity, I found this happening, and I also felt that there was an urge for order within all of us. So I want to show you the next two slides, and tell me, just you just look at it and tell that whether this disturbs when you look at something like this. Because one has always looked at the way a carpenter would look at doors. They had a fantastic eye. They could just see if there is a slightest bend. So of course, obviously, there's a training towards that. So, and especially, I mean, I'm sure most of you would have experience this, that when you see the doormat slightly off, you would somehow want to keep it right. So this is what I found was many hints that led me to look at this very very minute action that people do without consciously. I found that there is something that is urging us to organize our space in a certain way. So please look at this video of this girl, see what she is doing. There is something that disturbed her and made her to organize it in a certain way. And you also notice that the other child also joined, even though she never asked. So there is something that is common to everyone, that that there is something that we want to do. We want to organize our spaces. It's a very innate urge. And of course, some of this I'm showing from the documentation we had done on children. Look at this kind of thing that is. And this is another very, very beautiful video in which, it again breaks our notions about leadership and, all that kind of nonsense that modern people talk about. Actually, if you look at how children and rural travel people behave, you will find that this notion of individual leader is absent. You please look at this way that everybody is. So it's actually, one friend was telling, it's called coordinated cooperation, which is unfamiliar for us, because what is familiar for us is subordinated cooperation. So just look at the way that this event takes place. So you could see that almost 6 people were working on this and nobody was telling what to do. It's such a beautiful way, and this we have noticed many, many times. So this is not the first time that we have been noticing how children have been able to work together without having any someone telling what to do. So this kind of beautiful coming together is something that challenges our notion that we have to have a leader who should tell what to do. So please look at the pictures once again, and I want to come back to this. Uh, why do you find this beautiful? What is the reason? So actually, see, the thing that I have been feeling is that because there is a strong biological basis for these are extremely functional in its needs. That actually beauty is nothing but creating the most appropriate, most least energy spending kind of an experience. For example, when you say for example, this composition, when you say this is beautiful, you like it very much, which actually means that the cognitive load on the eye is the least. And also, this is very interesting that I have seen. One day I was, in a tribal village. I found two people who were sitting and talking to each other. And after some time, a third person came in. And I found this beautiful way they reorganized the way they sit. Of course, this is only possible in the context when you are using in a place where there's no furniture at all, because then there is far more freedom to respond to the true needs of your body actually and to the context. So that from two people, how they reorganized and became to adjust the third person was like seeing a beautiful recomposition that was taking place. And again, what is it that urges from us to create such an order? Because every time we are creating orders, a very organic order everywhere, and subconsciously, it's not something that we are doing it purposely. And so this is what I'm telling. So when that space doesn't have that opportunity, then of course there is a different way that is sitting. Now in the traditional communities, normally sitting is on the ground. So naturally, a different kind of formation is possible. Like in the modern spaces, when the chair is rigid, like the sofa, how do you move around? That fixes the way that you're going to sit and interact. So I will also take it to the body level, how body also continuously responds to this, to the need of the body's needs for rhythm. Are you able to listen to the sound? The video sounds?
No.
Oh. So let me just quickly do that. Otherwise, where is it? Share computer sound. Sorry, I think you should. Okay, you didn't miss anything earlier. Can you hear? Could you hear this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Get up.
This is my mother. She is 88-year-old.
ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചത് എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ ജോലി ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല മെക്കാനിക്കലിൽ. പിന്നെ ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചത് ഡിസൈനിങ് ആണ്.
You can see that every action there is a rhythm, every action. And you please watch this man because he only the moment he does the he uses that net. Just watch him do that. So this is not just in tradition. So let me also share a fantastic video I came across. So I've been doing this documentation for quite some time, looking at how people do various things, in kitchen, in the farm, in the traditional artisan communities. Everywhere I find this fantastic rhythm and order in the way people do. And mind you, they work for several hours with and you don't see the tiredness. I think that is because they have learned how to make use of the proper rhythm so that they don't get tired. This is a very, very important kind of thing. And so I came across this fantastic video somebody had done, very beautiful. I only made a small portion of that and I'm just sharing it with you. This is in Africa.
Toutes les choses, c'est du rythme. Les pas de marche, c'est le rythme. Les paroles, c'est des rythmes.
So I think there is a very innate need for conservation of energy, and probably this is the way that nature has, devised. And I think beauty and aesthetics is probably that is where this, the root of that. So I have also done some experiments based on that in design schools where I have, so many people ask that once you are cognitively damaged, when your senses are not functioning, how do you regain that, So I've been actually experimenting with 19, 20-year-olds to see how do you get back the senses, observation ability. So I will just share with you just 2-3 of the work. See, you can see that something as mundane as a dry leaf can become absolutely beautiful and worthy of observation. So of course you have to start seeing, that actually the whole purpose is to learn to see again, make seeing a choiceless kind of an activity. Just a wooden piece that has become some dry leaves and just color from the nature. Normally nobody will look at a dry leaf, because when you ask people to get something beautiful from nature, usually people will come back with a flower. Very rarely somebody will go and find few dry leaves and come back. Also, the moment you begin to do that, then different sense begin to function and you begin to see beauty everywhere. Just getting into the details of leaves, grass. So since I also felt that this can become one of the best way to reimagine what the schools, as long as we need to have them, because see, the moment you integrate aesthetics as very much part of your, because for cognition and aesthetics it's the same sense that we use, beauty is part of the senses basically, and cognition also, the tools are your senses. So integration of this is what I thought would be the best, because that is how it happens. So this is I've done some experiments in some schools, but so this is what the proposal is, that we move from product to process, from known to unknown, and from teaching to awakening. And because the aesthetic sense is the basis of all art or art forms, because all art is a result of their experience. So rather than teaching them skills to sing, paint, draw, what we need to do is to awaken their sense to see, to be very sensitive to things around, so that you pay attention to what you hear, you begin to touch, feel, to move. So all that, then you are turning this whole thing into a process. So then art becomes a means to observe the world, awaken the aesthetic sense, and connect to the beauty and the knowledge of the surroundings, So, and senses can be kept alive only by providing opportunity for us to use it, to see. When that becomes central, then naturally your senses will begin to, function. It will become more and more refined and more sensitive. So one very important thing we must understand is that all children are born artists and scientists, you know, and just that the way that we conduct our schooling system, most of the people drop out of both. They are neither scientists nor artists, you know, and the more damage is actually the art sector, because you know, our sense of beauty, and because that is been given least importance. And so eliminating senses and beauty from our educational paradigm has killed true creativity, as well as production of beauty. And it is producing beauty disabled people. The real learning disability is caused by this educational process. The learning disability that is now being spoken of really our inability to adjust to the wrong educational process. So actually the learning disabled are the ones who are supposed to be successful in education, because they don't learn at all. What they do is just mugging up. Learning is creation of knowledge through your direct engagement with the world. So the focus is that art as a productive, art as a process. From compartmentalized understanding of art, you know, something like, you know, drawing, painting, you know, all those kind of things, into experiencing the totality of nature. And then known to unknown means, you know, shifting from ready-made content of various nature into the real world. And from conditioning to awakening, from teaching to co-creation. So this is a very important kind of a situation, that the tragedy that we are facing today is that every teacher feels that they have to know how to teach. Otherwise, they don't want to spend time with children. But all my experiences have been, because I really don't know how to paint nor draw, but I have been able to get people to draw very well just by respecting their ability. So I think we don't really need skills to draw, but what we need is sensitivity to first to respect other people, so that we stop teaching, and to you know, to keep away from them, and you know, I mean, as an authority, that's what I meant, but be with them in part of the process of exploring, you know. So this is a completely different take. And like I was talking about drawing the other day, this actually is far more important than teaching language and subjects and all that, because this is what actually ground them to the real world and connect the three-dimensional aspect and the two-dimensional aspect. You know, this is where, you know, and I think only after this we should do anything to do with writing and those kind of things, because otherwise they will be completely alienated from the from language itself, writing itself. And as you can see, beauty is all around. It's just a matter of seeing. So what has been happening is that the art as it is practiced in modernity is a construct of the mind. Because you see, modernity looks at art more like, first, it's a mental idea. Secondly, it's more like a self-expression. Whereas if you look at anything that happens in a rural, tribal, traditional communities, there is nothing called self-expression. You know, what we can actually call them is selfless expression, where you become absent and things begin to happen, you know. So one who can see can see only beauty. Well, this is not an exaggeration. It's just that, you know, we have to actually begin to see. Now, you know, one test about whether you're really able to connect with beauty is that when you look at something beautiful, something, you know, anything, that you watch yourself, whether what is actually getting engaged with that object, whether is it your mind or is it your heart. So beauty is integral aspect of life. It is rooted in the organizational principle of life, how things happen, both the organizational and operational principle of life, how things are done, you know. So the whole idea is to conserve energy and find the most apt way of doing actually. Now, if you find the notice, if you notice actually between the fragmented mindset that we have, for us beauty comes as an afterthought. Something is done and you want to create beauty later, you know. Now, for an integral being, that what you do is beautiful, and it is not done out of any wanting to do anything beautiful. It's almost like it is not a choice. What you do just turns out to be beautiful, you know. So I will also quickly take you to some examples of some rural tribal houses that I have, you know, shot all over India. I mean, you go to any rural tribal area, you will find these kind of beautiful houses. And also look at the way, for example, look at this pillar, you know, and look at the kind of an absence of a strict thing for straight lines, you know, very organically, you know, it is done. And this is something that you will find in every village. Not only that, if you look at the, you know, this, what you call as, you know, what do you call this thing?
Godri.
Godri, Godri, yes. The Godri, you know, so beautiful applique work. It just turns out to be beautiful, that's all. They're not, you know. So this, again, you find this all over, you know, in the northern part of the country, wherever, you know, there is, you know, winter. So an effortless creation of beauty is something that is, you know, part and parcel of the people who have not educated actually. So, so you know, aesthetics is one of the most misunderstood aspects of modernity. Of course, along with knowledge creation, children. I mean, the whole thing. Actually, you know, it's not just this. So, of course, this requires a complete shift in the way that we have been trained, conditioned to look at things. You know, because you know, that's another thing that I'm looking at. Yes, yesterday I was talking about what is happening with the cognitive sciences in the West. Aesthetic studies is even worse, actually. The cognitive neuroscience study of beauty and aesthetics is completely going in the wrong direction. They are really not looking at the true biological nature of the unmanifested aspect of beauty, because you know what they are actually doing is they are, you know, meeting many artists and then trying to test what is happening inside their brain when they are, you know, doing various things. I think we need to look at the unmanifested aspect of beauty, that how that when people are doing things, what is the urge for creating order, you know. It's like this, that if you want to find out the biological aspect of of our digestion process, I'm sure you will not start with the food. You know, you will not start with dosa, for example. The biology is not in the product, but in the hunger aspect. This simple shift has to be made to understand the biology of things. So now you can read this. Okay. I hope while reading this you have not missed the picture on the left side. There were some really beautiful pictures. Let me go back now. Just look at the picture only. They are really beautiful. This was a test actually, whether what will be your preference. It will be interesting to find out how many people missed the picture.